Welcome back to Brick and Brand, a podcast at the intersection of retail and entrepreneurship. We're your co-hosts, Delaney and Bretley Roach. Today, we're joined by Lauren Fields, founder of Fieldswell. And what she's created is honestly a little bit hard to put into one single category or box. It's part business, it's part personal growth, it's part content and brand building. And she's put all these things under the umbrella of her company, really with the purpose of helping people and helping them be more aligned in their life and in their work. So we are so excited to have her on the show today to hear her story and learn about her company. So without further ado, Lauren, welcome to Brick and Brand.
Hello, ladies. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be with you this morning. I'm excited to dive in.
Us too. We're so happy to have you. Thank you for making time for us. So we're going to get right to it. There's a lot of good stuff to cover today. So for anyone who's listening who is not familiar with your company, Fieldswell, which is based in San Diego, can you tell us about your company, your vision for it, kind of how it came to life and how it's different from the other wellness companies that are out there today?
Sure. So Fieldswell is a personal development ecosystem. The brand at this point has many different branches from our headquarters here in Rancho Santa Fe, where we are mainly focused now on personal branding, and we're sitting in our podcast studio right now. So we help others start their shows, record their podcasts, really clarify the vision and identity for their brand and step into that. We have the Fieldswell podcast, as you know. We host many different events. I have my first book coming out soon. So we did our merchandise line we launched this year. So it's really fun to see the progression the brand has taken. But it all started out as my personal wellness journey. I grew up an equestrian, was show jumping here in California, in San Diego, and was in a bad horse accident, life flighted into a coma with a traumatic brain injury. And my healing from that traumatic event really got me into neuroscience, psychology, wellness. I just wanted to learn all about the mind and body and how to really get yourself back after hitting a low point and facing these inevitable challenges that we all will face. And that journey led me to want to help other people design their lives and turn their adversity into their advantage. And through that long journey, Fieldswell was born. And Fieldswell, I came up with the name. It's my last name combined with wellness, Fieldswell. It's all about feeling well, because I believe when we make a commitment to feeling well, that's the gateway to completely transforming our lives and reaching our greatest potential. And through following that journey, I think, and sharing it, it kind of became our collective one. And now we have kind of this Fieldswell family, as we call it, that have been such a fun part of our community and growth.
Wow. That is so cool. I had forgotten that your dad mentioned you were in show horse jumping. That is so cool. Bretley and I grew up with horses. Bretley was a horse rider more than me, but we never did any jumping.
I was never that good.
We never did any jumping.
Mainly getting bucked off, but horses are wonderful.
They are. And that sport, I think when you grow up as an athlete, and this has always been my mindset, is whatever I commit to, I want to become the very best at it. So from 6 years old, I was at the stable all day, every day. At one point, I was homeschooled, and it taught me discipline. It taught me how to become a champion, and it taught me really how to devote myself to something.
Yeah.
Lauren, did you think as a young girl that you would have your own business and that you would be an entrepreneur? Or was this something that came out of the horse riding accident and doing kind of the self-work to figure out what you wanted to do?
If I go back to my young days, I mean, when you're a child, there were young days where I envisioned myself being like a soccer mom, right? Like driving around with the kids. There were days where I envisioned myself starting a fashion line. But I think as soon as I entered the workforce, I always wanted to find my own thing. But I put a lot of pressure on myself right after college. I feel like you're supposed to know exactly what you're meant to do. You know, you've just had these 4 years of education and invested a lot of time and resources in that. And I put a lot of pressure on myself in my younger 20s to have it all figured out. And I always felt like I was destined for more than the roles that I held after school, which were in real estate, in hospitality. And that's when I
Mhm.
began that inner like search for meaning. But this was paired with kind of still recovering and
Mhm.
unraveling the trauma that had happened many years prior from the horse accident. So that just eventually led to me finally getting the courage to go for it, which took a long time. I think there was like a decade of the build of what you actually see now sprouting above ground.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot happening behind the scenes. Can you talk a little bit about the events that Fieldswell has and puts on? I know that I've seen some on your social media in Rancho Santa Fe. What kind of events do you do, and where do your ideas for those come from?
Sure. So from the start, I believed in kind of giving back to the community before I expected them to invest in me. So when we opened our headquarters last March, April, I hosted an open house where I welcomed everyone here. We had a nice, like, catered lunchroom time in the ranch here, which was amazing outside. We had them come in, do some red light, sound healing, just really
Mhm.
experience the space and feel part of the community. Then we hosted an event that it was like a yoga meditation, then a lunch and learn, and then getting to use all of our
Mhm.
favorite kind of like wellness tools. We've hosted a Fieldswell festival, which was really cool, where we
Wow.
had yoga and then we had like cold plunge, massage, shopping, this whole lawn of just different wellness activations. I've
Wow.
hosted a Fields One and Friends podcast event where I hosted a podcast panel, kind of drinks and bites around that. And now that we've expanded our space here, I host different workshops, anywhere from brand building nights. We hosted
Okay.
a flower making class. One of my
Wow.
close friends, I helped her build her brand as a florist. And we did that. We did an intentional speed dating workshop. So I have all these really creative ideas. And the vision for that is just creating experiences where people are part of a greater vision for who they can become and a safe space for them to really express themselves. And I think people are
Mhm.
craving this in person connection. And so
Uh-huh.
if I'm able to host that and facilitate that, it brings a lot of joy to my life.
Mhm.
100%. I love the creative use of doing different events to get people engaged. So, take us into kind of actually starting the company. You're putting on these events. Do you do you have employees at that time? Where are you now as compared to when you started in terms of employees? This seems like a lot of work, multiple different facets of the business. Did you build a team around you or were you just wearing all the hats?
A little bit of both. I think as an entrepreneur, especially at the early stages, it technically is still, I don't know if we still call it a startup, but you are the visionary. You wear many hats, and there's
Mhm.
no role that's too big or too small. And I think what's beautiful is when you believe in something so much and you're completely obsessed with it, you attract people along the way who become part of the team.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
to give our readers perspective, I started the Fieldswell Instagram app in 2017. It's now 2026. So that's how long the like iteration and the vision took for me to become the version of myself I am today, who's capable of holding and running this show. From when I opened our physical space, have had an assistant, a brand manager, Danielle, who's been wonderful. So she helps kind of with everything under the sun. And then I have a virtual assistant who helps with kind of the podcast back end. And then I have an editing team who helps with the show. Then I will hire people like Lori, who has Lore Experiential. She's been wonderful for our visionary with our events. So I will bring people on who aren't full time employees to help with
Mhm.
certain moments or experiences within the brand.
Wow.
I love that, especially for our listeners. You don't have to necessarily hire a full-time team when you're just starting out and maybe you're on a tight budget, but
Yeah.
doing the contract workers, that's a great way to kinda make it work.
Mhm. And
Totally.
continue to grow.
Find people who are experts at what you're not expert at so you can focus
Mhm.
on what you're really good at and they can help you build whatever you're building to the point it needs to be where you're then able to hire
Mhm.
even better people to help you along the way. So when I
Mhm.
first started the podcast, I had, a specific editor helping me. I would do a lot of the editing. Now I have a different team where they're so helpful that I trust their direction with it and I can focus more on other more important areas for me to focus on at this point in time.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's such a valuable piece of advice, especially for entrepreneurs. I wanted to ask you, Lauren, about your TED Talk, which is so cool. How did that come about? And how has sharing your ideas publicly and for larger and larger audiences, how has that kind of shaped the business as it's evolved?
That TEDx talk was a very pivotal moment for me because it really was the first time I had publicly stood up and shared a story that I felt I had kept buried inside of myself for so long. And it was very liberating. It opened so many doors. Not only just when I found out I got that talk, mind you, a couple months prior, I had gone through a really difficult breakup. I was kind of rebuilding myself, had a relationship that I thought was going to be the one in right before I turned 30. And I was like, you know what?
Mm.
If life can change this quickly, what am I waiting for to really go all in on the thing I know I've been called to do for so long? So it really lit the
Mm,
fire under me. And I had this list. It was like TEDx talk, podcast, headquarters. And I was like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to do all the things. So I started applying for TEDx talk. And when I got the talk, I said, okay, I have to devote the next 2 months of my life to really nailing this and giving it all that I got. So I hired a speaking coach who helped me speak. I devoted over 100
Mm.
hours to an 8-minute talk. So
Wow.
I put so much time and
Impressive.
attention into that because I was like, this is such an incredible opportunity. I want to nail this to the best of my
mhm,
ability. While I
Mhm.
was at that TEDx talk, I met Mo Rock, who owns the LA Tribune. They had just started a podcast network. So that talk led to me speaking at their events. It led to me starting a podcast with their network. And so it's like, listen to what you feel called to do because oftentimes it leads to the next thing that you're also
Mhm.
seeking. So that was a really
mhm,
beautiful
100%.
moment. And I look back now and I feel like I've come so far from then, but that really was the start of me starting to show up for myself in a much bigger
mhm,
way and realizing like this is no longer about me, but I'm sure like I believe that the message I had could help others too. And so it took a lot of
Mhm.
bravery and courage. I wish I shared sooner. I wish I did it all sooner because it
Mhm.
was
mhm.
such a special moment and it's really been a big foundational part of where we are today.
Wow, and
There's
I
so much to
so
talk
much to
about there.
comment on, but I just wanna say briefly, I love that you put in the work.
Yeah.
You didn't just get it and go, "Oh, okay, I'm good. I've got it. I can do an 8 minute." Because I'm sure that would have been fantastic too, but you realized this is for my future and this is going to open up so many other doors. And so I'm going to put in the discipline and the work to make sure that I'm the best that I can
Mhm.
be and I perform.
I also want to share something else is this is how I went about landing the talk. I knew for a long time I'd wanted to do a TEDx talk. I think I was in Tulum and there was a sign for TEDx. And I was like, I don't know, maybe they were doing one there. I was like, I would like to do that someday. I was always so inspired by TED speakers and TEDx speakers. And so I started looking at coaches who had helped people with their TEDx talks. And I found one. And she was like, I only work with people who have already landed one. And I convinced her to help
Mm,
me. And so,
wow.
start searching, start asking because you may be surprised on the yeses that you end up getting.
Mm,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, if you're putting yourself out there, it will lead to another connection or another stepping stone. I've experienced that in my business too. I think as long as you're putting yourself out there, and it takes a lot of courage to get on
hmm
stage. That's the number one fear people have, right? Is public speaking, especially at that level. So kudos to you for having that courage, but to that then leads to other connections that just compound on one another. Um, so talk to us, take us back to as you're starting the brand, you're obviously on fire for this, you're passionate about it, but I'm sure there were a lot of challenges too. So were there some big challenges that stand out early on that you thought, this is was completely unexpected. I don't know if I can do this, or how did you navigate start some challenges that came with starting the company and the businesses?
I think the biggest challenge anyone will face when starting a business is just getting over their own limiting beliefs.
hmm
Mm,
hmm
The most important thing is just continuing to believe in myself. There will be hard days, there will be amazing days. Like entrepreneurship will slap you in the face 1,000 times, but you
Yep.
just like have to shrug it off and keep moving forward. You can
Yeah.
make excuses all day long for why now is not the time, the right time. Maybe one day I'll do it, but it's just an excuse. If you really want it, it's all about how committed are you to making it happen. And so
Yeah.
I think what helped me so much was having such a foundational wellness practice and having my master's in psychology, understanding how the mind works, and just having such a clear vision for what I wanted to create. But it has evolved beyond what I could have predicted when I first began, and it happened quickly. We opened our first space last April. We ended up signing another lease to expand last September. So that was really quick. So
Mm.
last year was a huge year for us. And building out this new space, there were an array of things that happened along the way that were challenges. Things didn't go as planned, trying to get it ready by a certain point in time.
Mhm.
But you just keep moving forward because you can focus on the problem or you can focus on the solution. And I've always been very solution oriented. I like to set deadlines, things having to be ready by a certain time. So despite, things going not as planned, like the floors being stained the wrong color or a TV coming cracked or a couch not making it up the
Mhm.
stairs. Like
Yeah.
we were here until almost midnight the night before our morning photo shoot the day of we opened this new space, but we made it happen. And I think you just keep focusing on your desired vision and you keep moving forward and you understand challenges will arise and you
Mhm.
trust that you're capable of overcoming them.
Well, and
Where's the
having
second
Oh, go ahead.
location? I'm sorry, Delaney.
No.
I'm so
They
curious.
they share it. It's actually wild. So when I opened the first space, it had doors into 2 units on each other side of it. This is an older
Okay.
building built in early 1900s. So I walled off one and put a bookshelf over it, and I left one of them open. And eventually, my office in the our original space was a office. It was client facing for me to meet one-on-one with my clients. It also became our in-person podcast studio. So it was like constantly under renovation, like taking
Mm.
things up, putting it down. So I ended up emailing management and I'm like, "Hey, if either space next to me opens up, please let me know." I was envisioning the smaller space, just it was like one room that it could be a podcast studio. And he goes, "Oh, well, the your neighboring unit just decided not to renew, so it can be yours in 30 days." And I go, "Okay. I didn't expect it to happen that quickly, but
Yeah.
am I going to walk in the door that just opened behind me?" And I did, and it's a much larger space, and so that's where we host our workshops. We have a get ready room here for hair and makeup. We have our recording
Wow.
studio. So it really is jumping sometimes way before you feel ready and
Mhm.
making the decision you make the best decision.
Mhm.
Mm.
Not taking no for an answer. And maybe if you don't feel ready right then, it doesn't mean you can't get there, or it doesn't mean you say no and put it off. Um,
Mhm.
I want to talk about the different branches of Fieldswell. When the brand or the idea for the brand was born, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming you didn't envision it to have all these different facets to it, or maybe you did, but how did that evolve along the way with, the workshops and the podcast and the wellness sanctuary?
Sure. So when I founded this headquarters, I came armed with different certifications because I, at one point, was a
Okay.
forever student. And I think many of us can get stuck in that phase of like, I need one more certification or one more
Mm,
qualification before I begin the thing that I'm going to do. There are people out there doing what you seek to do with far less credentials and experience, and they're crushing it. So, my
mhm,
advice to your listeners is just to get started
Mhm.
really get to improve is when you're in the arena doing the thing. So, with my
mhm,
background in health and wellness coaching, life coaching, my yoga teacher training, my master's in psychology, when I opened our first space, my vision was that I would help people feel well with their wellness routines and elevate their mindset. What started to happen once we recorded the podcast on site was, and I was kind of building this brand more publicly online from having shown up, given the TED Talk, doing online speaking or in person, and growing the podcast. Clients started coming saying, help me show up online, help me build my brand or
mm,
business." So I started
mhm,
Mm.
recording content with them using all this podcast equipment, which is really great equipment. And then I said, okay, well, there's something here. This is what people really need help with. And through building a personal brand, you step into your next level identity. You step into the vision you have for yourself. And there's a lot of transformation that happens there. And so I think it's a very beautiful modern way that we're able to really elevate ourselves by stepping into this new identity, as opposed to focusing just on your mindset, you really evolve as a human when you start showing up online and on camera, because it takes a lot of courage, and it really
Mhm.
is like holding a mirror up to yourself. So that's been a really
Mhm.
cool evolution of the brand. If you say it went from personal coaching to personal branding, I believe they're more connected than the average person may understand, because through building a personal brand, it really is personal development.
Mhm.
Mhm. That's a
Yeah.
great point. So it's interesting that people were approaching you. You weren't necessarily out marketing personal branding assistance or coaching. So that was very organic how that happened.
It was, and I think it's because it's what I was doing at the time,
Yeah.
unknowingly.
Mhm.
Like, I was building my personal brand, I was building Fieldswell, and so that translated to others seeing that and wanting to create something similar for themselves, and it's been so fun to help them do that and now have, this space built out to do exactly that.
Mhm.
Mhm. Lauren, talk to us about the industry as a whole that you're in. It's very full of all different types of people saying they're doing health and wellness, right? I feel like it's picked up a lot more traction over the past 5 to 10 years, mindset, coaching, all those things. How do you set Fields Well apart from the other brands and create kind of a niche that you can really market off of?
I believe Fieldswell is much more than a wellness brand. We've now
Mhm.
ventured into almost a media company,
Mhm.
because it's
Mhm.
not just helping people feel well and have the courage to show up as the best version of themselves, but also how to showcase that virtually to build their brand, to build their business. So I think what we've done here differentiates us in a very strong way, because you now see wellness centers popping up on every corner. And so when I had, the opportunity to build into this new space, I thought, do I want to put a hyperbaric chamber in here? Do I want to do more red light? I said, no,
Mhm.
we're going to put a studio here. We're going to make it more about branding, about identity work, about self-expression, because for me, I think the brand has really grown along with my journey, in that originally Feeling Well was so focused on just regulating my nervous system, just feeling good inside of myself and coming back to baseline. And now, since I have that foundation so set, it's really about expressing myself more boldly in the world and sharing who I
Mhm.
really am. And so to help people do that has been really exciting. And so that's more of where I believe the brand is going. Beyond, I mean, the wellness events will always hold value, and I love doing those, through I believe in movement and red light and acupuncture and ear seating and all the things, but really the media component and giving people the courage to share their stories and elevate their brands and elevate who they are. That's what I'm
Mhm.
really pulled to moving forward.
Well, and it seems so incredibly authentic and genuine to who you are. I mean, obviously, all the credentials in the school, the background, supplements that. But at your core, it's evident that that's what you're really passionate about, and it's what you're doing is building your brand. And so I think that's infectious to other people to see that and go, well, how is she doing that? Can I do the same thing? I think that holds a lot of value. What's something that's kind of worked best for you in terms of marketing and building awareness, in addition to just the natural authenticity of you and what you're doing and offering to your clients?
I would say I love this word, send it. Like, put yourself out there. Be cringe. Like, do the thing before you're ready. People don't want to start because they don't want people to see them starting at the bottom. Those you
Yeah.
admire, those
Mm.
you look up to, they started at the bottom, and that's how they got to the top.
Yep.
They worked their way up through experience. There's no shortcut. It's like, what's
Mhm.
Mhm.
the secret? The secret is showing up every day. It's showing up here at 8 a.m. on a podcast to talk. And each time you'll
Yep.
get better, because you're like, oh, I've already done that. Each time
Yep.
you have
Yeah.
more confidence in yourself, more experience. So for anyone listening, it's just like, start now, start before you're ready. Make ready a decision, not a feeling. Decide to show up today, decide to put yourself out there, decide to do the thing. Market in many different ways. I mean, we're all across social media platforms, whether it's
Mhm.
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. You are sending, I have a newsletter that goes out. We have the podcast, we're hosting events. It's like, be, people can't ignore you when you're everywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're like, "What is this?" You know? "What is Fieldswell?" We hosted, like, 12 events last year. I got to the end of the year, I'm like, "Holy shit, how did how did we do everything that
That's
we did?" But I really just went
incredible.
all in on it, and I was relentless, and you just have to be obsessed and put yourself out there and go
Yeah.
for it.
That's
I love that
so
idea that
true.
yeah, that there's no shortcuts. It's
Yeah.
something I always talk to that about, like, the young people that are getting into real estate, and they'll say, "Well, how do you get new clients?" Or, "How do you, grow your business?" And it's like they want a magic solution of, "Just do this and it will all work." And it's like, no, you have to pick up the phone and make calls, and you have to do it over and over again, day after day, and then in 5 years, you'll look back and you'll have a pretty good client base. But
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right, it's the consistency in the early mornings and the late nights when nobody sees and it's not particularly glamorous, but
Mhm.
you have to just keep doing it anyway.
The
Mhm.
discipline, the rinse and repeat. And I would say another thing that has helped me a lot when I first started this podcast for a year, I devoted myself to going to many different networking events and conferences and picking
Mm,
mentors in the industry that I got as close as possible to. Emily Ford was a big one. She's, I would say, like the branding queen. I did a VIP day with her and really getting as close as possible as you can to those who have already done what you're looking to do and
mhm.
learning how they did it.
Yeah.
Yes. We talk about that a lot on this podcast is use the people around you. Always be learning and talking to people who are maybe where you want to be eventually or have built something that you are inspired by and pick their brain. Ask them to introduce you to one other person and just continue to do that over and over.
Mhm.
It's the same in our business. And I also want to touch on you mentioned everybody starts at the bottom. I think that's so relatable, especially in today's age where everything's online and social media and it's like I don't have any followers, or this is cringe, or it's embarrassing. Everybody starts from ground zero and has to work their way up.
Often we look at someone and we're like so intimidated by it and we have
Mhm.
imposter syndrome and we're like, how will I ever get to where they are? You
Yep.
know, they're look at how polished it is or look at how great it looks. You get there by starting, and that person is an example of what's possible for you.
100%. Yeah, instead of being
Instead of
intimidated, be
then
inspired.
totally, oh wait, they've done it. Why can't I can do it too? That's an example of what's
Mhm.
possible if I commit wholeheartedly to the mission.
Mhm.
I think that speaks to your mindset though, because you've
Yeah.
obviously done a lot of mindset work and you clearly you're very confident and you see the vision. And I love that you're helping other people find that because I think a lot of people have the desire and the idea for their business, but fear holds them back, right? And what people will think, and they never ultimately take that step. So, to your earlier point, it is about aligning your mindset and then the direction of your life kind of naturally will shift with it. So it's a beautiful message.
Mhm.
Thank you. I think really asking yourself, like, what is it that I want? What do I want? What
Uh,
do I want to do? What do I want to create? And you may not have an answer right away, but sit with that. Like, what excites you when you see someone else doing something? Are you like, oh, I would love to do that? Like discover your desires and believe that you are worthy of whatever it is that you seek. And what's the worst that can happen if you try? At least you're in the arena. You fail.
Mhm.
Failure is not trying, in my opinion. At least if you go for it, you learn something, you meet new people, you gain
right.
experience.
Yeah. It's so
100%.
true.
Since we are in real estate, we love talking about physical spaces. You obviously have one you just expanded. Do you see Fieldswell becoming a scalable concept in terms of more physical locations, or do you see it more being online and media focused?
I believe that there is potential for Fieldswell Studios to have other locations. It's a matter of if I wanna take that direction because I've been so business focused for the past few years. The brand has grown incredibly, and we're filling up our headquarters here with other individuals starting their shows, starting to show up online, that I can see other fun locations because I wish I had this when I was first starting to want to show up, like someone I could go meet with to talk about my dreams, to talk about my vision, to help me show up online in an elevated way, because I think that really differentiates you from the start. And
Mhm.
there aren't a lot of places to go and do this. So I could definitely see this in places like New York City and Austin, Texas, two of my favorite cities. But there's also one of me. And so I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of opportunities in front of me. And it's like, which one do I want to take? Because there are other areas of my life that I want to expand into, like starting a family, having children, and Fieldswell has been
Mhm.
my main baby and priority for the past few
Mhm.
years. So I see myself, I have my first book coming out in a couple of months, starting to speak more on that, launching more podcasts here at Fieldswell Studios. And who's to say? I can't fully predict what the future will hold, but I know that it will be very bright, and I'm excited to see where the Fieldswell brand goes.
I'm so excited to hear about the book. That's incredible. Is there anything you can share with us about that and that journey? How long have you been working on it? How long did you know you wanted to be an author? What can you share with us about that? I'm so excited.
I believe I started working on it over a decade ago, just knowing that I would want to eventually become an author, very inspired
Okay.
by individuals like Gabby Bernstein, Mel Robbins of the world,
Mhm.
wanting to write an uplifting message, wanting to share my story of transformation, and the process that I have used really to turn my vision into velocity. And I have been working on it really focused on it for the past 3 years,
Mhm.
and it should be out by August latest of this year. So I'm really
Mm.
excited about that. I know that's going to be a whole new chapter for us and for me, and I'm ready for it. People asked if I was nervous or fearful about like having a book come out, and I was like, maybe if I hadn't already had hundreds of interviews on a podcast and shown up
Yeah.
boldly on a microphone every day, maybe I'd be worried, but I'm like, no, I'm just excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you should be.
Yeah.
Are you
That's
going on a book
amazing.
tour or anything, or what are you doing to market the book?
So I definitely want to do a podcast tour. I have
Okay.
hosted many, many people on my show. And so it's time for me to start guesting more on shows. So I'm grateful you had me on today. I want to do a big podcast tour for the book tour. And then, yes, I would love to travel, speak at different bookstores, on different talk shows, etc., to really market the book. And it's going to put my skills to the test on how to really brand this. And I know that I'm going to be the one who sells that book. So
Mhm.
so let's see the approach that I take to do that.
And I'm
You're
sure
gonna
you're gonna
do
do
incredible.
amazing. Yes. I'm so excited to follow along. So
Let us know as
August.
soon as we can order, because I
I
Yes.
I wanna get
will.
the pre-order list. Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
me too.
yes.
I'm curious, shifting back from the book, I'm curious because the brand Fieldswell is so unique and it's so focused on uplifting and building other people around you. How do you stay true to that mission, but also prioritize the monetization and the business side of it? Because that's obviously a very important piece, and this is a livelihood as well. So, how do you kind of balance that?
Great questions.
I would say by showing up every day and being of service and focusing specifically on how many people that I can help as opposed to looking at them as a dollar sign.
Mm,
I believe
Mhm.
in forming deep, meaningful relationships, and what I've created here is a unique experience for people
mhm.
to come be a part of.
Yeah,
And I think
Yeah.
that
absolutely.
translates because they come here. I want people to feel like a guest in my home. It's not
Yeah.
transactional, it's deep, it's relational, it's human.
Yeah, and it's evident with the way that you talk about it and everything that you offer. I just think that it can be hard to balance both sides of that and want to give people the best experience, but also you're building a business too at the end of the day. And so, but to your point, I think when people show up and they experience this, it's such a unique offering and it's so powerful personally and both for their business that there is no price tag on that.
It is like when you realize like you are the product. What
Mm,
price do you put on yourself to give services to others, especially in this
mhm,
business? This is Fieldswell. It's my baby. It's what I've developed. And so to put a number on that, it's really even goes beyond what we've created here that you're experiencing. It is my life experience. It is the certifications that I've gained. It is the vision I have
mhm,
for myself and the vision that I'm able to help you really turn into your reality and gain speed toward creating. It's a shortcut for you to really start showing up for yourself. But I mean, as an entrepreneur, as a young woman, you have to figure it out along the way. I think you can't
mhm,
expect an overnight success. Like it takes time to build. And I think people
Mhm.
give up too soon, but it's an investment to start a business, to open a physical space, to have a podcast, like all of it.
yeah.
And so, you got to be committed. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be a long term, slow build.
Yep,
Yeah.
Totally.
Do you feel like I want to just stay on this for a little bit longer because I know so many founders, women, men who are building their brands, and we're always brainstorming, how do we get more clients? How do we market better? And so I love your point of, you are the brand. If you put off that energy, the clients will come. But I want to understand that a little bit more for the people listening who maybe are struggling to get clients, but they do offer a great service. Do you feel like it was your marketing efforts in addition, or have clients never really been an issue for you with the marketing you've done? You just felt like they've come organically, or was that ever something that was a challenge? Because I think it is for a lot of entrepreneurs.
It definitely is in the beginning, especially with a concept that is new.
Yeah.
When people are like, what's Fieldswell? What
Yeah.
people probably came into our first event, they're like, what is this place? I think it takes time to get clarity on that. And you do that by opening, by showing up every day, by continuing to evolve to see what sticks,
Mhm.
to continuing to welcome people into your space, to continue believing in it, to continue not just being like, why isn't anyone coming, but reaching out to people, inviting them in, providing value, and just trusting like, if no one's showing up, why is that? How can I
Mhm.
adjust? What do I need to pivot into? Like, we're seeing a lot more traction now with the studio space than I was seeing originally when I first opened our first space. And granted, that's because we've gained more notoriety and understanding of what Fieldswell is. We've been here now for longer, but it's also, this is more of a hit. The media part, the studio part is more of a hit than the personal coaching was. And so sometimes you
Right.
have to pivot, but you have to keep showing up, keep putting yourself out there and really see what sticks and keep inviting people to be a part of what you're creating.
Mhm. Yeah, don't be afraid to go where the interest is and kind of let your business evolve. That's great advice.
What do you think in the next 5 years? What's on the horizon for Fieldswell as it continues to grow and expand? At least as much as you can share, and maybe some of this has got to be kept secret for excited listeners, excited supporters of Fieldswell. But what do you see as the brand continues to evolve in the next couple of years?
Sure. So I, at this point, am interested in focusing more on different partnerships that Fieldswell can do. I think there's a lot on the table there that I haven't tapped into yet with other wellness brands and companies and businesses. So different partnerships, whether that's through events, whether that's through like media or advertising partnerships. I'm excited to see what's on the forefront there. I do believe strongly in the Fieldswell Studios concept. So I could see locations as we discussed in a few other of my favorite cities in the US. With the book coming out, I see myself doing more keynotes and conferences and speaking opportunities, bigger
Okay.
speaking opportunities with that. Continuing to grow the show, I am going to start renting out studios in other cities for that and interviewing people in person. I keep mentioning Austin and New York because that's just I've lived in both places and I love them dearly. LA, just continuing to grow, to meet people. And I eventually could see us having our own podcast network as we are already starting to launch shows within Fieldswell Studios. So those are just a few different things. And then I always love doing the events. I have an incredible friend, Whitney Aronoff. She's an amazing chef. And we want to start kind of a um, dinner series, if you will, a traveling dinner series that's really intentional and focused on longevity. So a few different fun things that are coming up.
A
That's
few. That
so
sounds like a
exciting.
lot.
Yeah.
They all sound incredible, though.
Mhm.
It's just, I love all the ideas and all the different directions you can take your
Mhm.
company. We're going to go into kind of a fun little segment now that's called Deal or No Deal. And we do this in every episode with our guests. And it's really just a fun, um, first thing that comes to your mind, deal or no deal. Yes, would you do this? No, would you not? And it could be a scenario that you've already encountered. Maybe you will encounter it soon, or it could just be totally hypothetical. So we'll run through those. All right. You can build a massive online course for people, but with this, you would rarely interact with your clients anymore. Deal or no deal?
This is a hard one because I mean,
It
I
is a
can see
hard
that.
one.
Do I just have to answer it or can I give an explanation?
No,
You can give
you
an
can give an
explanation.
explanation. Yeah.
I mean, like as a brand grows, sure, would love to have an online course, and scale online, but I also love the human to human connection. So if I could never meet with if I could never see a person and it was totally remote, it just depends on so many variables. That's a really hard question.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a world where that wouldn't exist, so we can say deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Love
that's
it.
fair. It could be
Love
a
it.
deal. Yeah.
Okay, number 2, you can help 100 people deeply transform their lives, or 10,000 people get small improvements, but not both. Deal or no deal? These are hard.
These are hard questions. So do I pick one or do I just say, because it's one or the
Yeah.
other?
Yeah, you're right. I guess pick one. Yeah. More mass
Okay.
volume
I
or
would
more.
rather 100 people transform really deeply because I believe one person can create a really strong ripple effect. So I'm going to go with the deep transformation there.
I love
it.
that. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Love it.
Okay, you find complete personal peace and balance in your life, but because of this, your business starts to plateau. Is that a deal or no deal?
I am very fulfilled with where Fieldswell is right now. And I actually have asked myself this question because people are always like, what's next? What's next? I'm like, the more it grows, how much more fulfilled can I feel? Because I'm so thrilled with where it is. And
Yeah.
I feel like my personal life is also really important. So I would not, I'm so thrilled with where the brand is today. And it's not that I don't want it to continue to grow. I know that it will, but I want to give more attention to my personal life. So I would be okay
Yeah.
with that deal.
Yeah. Keeping the inner peace. There's no price tag
Yeah.
on that. Very true.
It's the ultimate luxury is the inner peace. Like we're
Yeah.
always taught like more is better, more success, more this, more that. But it's like, how much can one person hold while also being able to lay down at night and be just like at peace with themselves?
100%. And then you can't show up as the best version of yourself for your business either. So it's a ripple effect. Okay, last one here. You take on a client who could massively grow your brand exposure, but they're not aligned with your values, and you know they aren't really going to put in the work or the effort. Deal or no deal?
No deal.
Oh, that
No
was a
deal.
quick
That's
one.
an easy one.
Yeah.
No deal.
Yeah.
I love
You
it.
have to have the alignment.
Yeah, very important. So, one thing we like to ask all of our guests at the end, and we think this is a fun question. If you could go back to day one of building Fieldswell, what's a piece of advice that you might give that younger version of yourself looking back from sitting where you are now?
I would say have faith and go for it. Like all of the fear that comes with like what's going to happen, is this the right thing? Like you just got to trust and have faith. Faith has become such a big part of my journey because when I look around, I'm like, this doesn't just happen. Like, you have to trust. You have to believe that you're having these downloads for a reason, that you're having these desires for a reason, and that when you follow your heart and you listen to it, that the right people, the right opportunities, the right experiences will present themselves to you when you start to walk the path. So to have faith and not try and rush the timeline and trust that it's all a learning and that whatever you're going through, whether it seems like a challenge or an opportunity or whatever it may be, it's all there to teach you something and to help you grow. So I would just say have faith and enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the
it
ride.
more.
Yeah.
I like that.
Enjoy
That speaks to
it.
me. I'm always telling myself, just enjoy it. Don't be so stressed and rushed. Because that's
No.
my natural default, as I think for many people, if you're not really clear on that,
Yeah.
that's what
You're
we default
rushing
to.
you're rushing to get to the finish line, but then you miss the whole process along the way, which is really where the magic is.
Yeah.
I'm learning. Yeah.
Where
Lauren,
can people find
yeah.
you
Yeah.
online on social media? Or if they want to reach out or get in touch?
Yeah, shoot me a DM. I'm most active on my personal Instagram, Lauren Fields, and you can find everything linked from there, from our Fieldswell podcast Instagram to our Fieldswell Studios headquarters Instagram to listening to the Fieldswell podcast to visiting our Fieldswell website to finding more about our in-person headquarters here in San Diego. Everything can be found on my Instagram.
yay. And your Instagram's incredible. So exciting.
Thank
And
you.
mark your calendars, everyone, for August for the book of the year coming out. I'm so excited to see that and read it. Lauren, you're incredible. I'm truly so inspired by you and everything you're building and your discipline and your mindset around it. I think there's so many valuable takeaways from what you've shared today. And the one thing that's sticking in my brain right now that I'm going to take with me is send it. Like that is the
I know,
perfect,
full send.
little easy to remember, but it's so true. Believe in yourself, believe in what you're creating, and dream big, and don't accept no for an answer. Just keep pushing forward. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and your expertise. We're so excited about Fieldswell and everything that's coming in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled for you and your podcast journey, and I look forward to connecting in person soon.
We'll see you next week on Breaking Brand.